Hey, everybody. I am Nick McLaughlin, and this is,
I'm Josh Rabelais.
and we are the Saved Skeptics. And
I blank on the name for a second.
we're like, this
I
name is
was
so
like,
easy to
I
remember,
was like,
man.
the name
We're
we came up with, the thing. What was it? I keep I keep saying
Anywho,
Sunday Skeptics too, and that was the original title. Oh, by the way, keep all this in. Don't
oh,
edit
I'm
this.
keeping it in. I don't even care. We had an idea about this episode. Josh and I are kind of ballsy. We just wanted to, instead of work our way up to it, just go for the hardest possible question there is.
Right. Really set us up for failing right after one episode.
Right? I mean, like, if this doesn't go well, we could just stop from here. But if it goes well, it's like, well, might as well keep going, pass a good
Yeah, there
test.
you go.
So, our episode today is about the misconception of God um, allowing people to go through horrible things. And um, Josh and I have a lot of experience with this. Anywho, this whole podcast is basically just one Texan and one Californian coming together and just one day saying, you know what? We were both agnostics and atheists, and we were very, very skeptical about religion, about belief, about so many things. And we came to Christ because of that exact skepticism. So we just wanted to share what our thoughts are on certain things and have some fun along the way. Any other thoughts you have, Josh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head because that is we searched every nook and cranny. I know on my front, read you name it, have read it. As far as religious texts go. In fact, my brother-in-law was talking to me the other day, and we were talking, and he references Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I start going off on like, oh, you mean this. I read it when I was searching,
All right.
or looked into it. I guess I shouldn't say read it, but
Right.
looked into it, and did some research into that Bhagavad Gita, Eightfold Path, Quran, the Book of Mormon,
Gosh, same. And by the way,
which
just for the listeners, I think it would be important for them to know Josh and I barely know each other. Like,
yeah.
I think we've been
We
like,
met because Nick was trying to sell me coaching in real estate about 6 years ago.
and then we just were like, you know what? You're too chill of a person to never see again. Let's just add each other on Facebook. So we did. And then years later, we just said, hey, I noticed that you post a lot about Jesus. And, oh, yeah, I love this misconception posts and whatnot. So we just talked. And now we're just like, you know what? Let's make a podcast on that.
And now we text every day,
Yes, we
multiple
do.
times a day,
Smiley face.
smiley faces and everything. And I still put your name as Nick and Callie. That's what it's been for so long, and I refuse to change it.
You
Here
can
in
keep it, man.
Washington, but you're Nick and Callie.
It doesn't
So
matter. It doesn't matter. You don't know where I am.
I know who you are, so that's all that matters.
That is all that matters. We both were not believers in God. We actually were very against the idea. Well, I was very agnostic. I don't say I wouldn't say I was an atheist, but I would say I was agnostic, but I did think maybe there's some sort of God out there. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I didn't really care most of the time, but when bad things happened to me, I would still blame him, and I would think, why me? What's wrong? What did I ever do to deserve this? And
Eh, I'm similar with a little bit different. So I kind of roller coastered. So I like it sounds like you kind of went up and then you got agnostic and you kind of were like, okay, here we go. And you had some moments in there. I
right.
crossed the threshold, went to atheist, and then kind of came back around and kind of went back to agnostic and before eventually
Right, you
coming
took
to
the
faith.
long detour.
I took a very long detour. Took a very long detour. So I don't know you know this, Nick, but or I think I mentioned it in the small group. So I was going to be a Catholic priest growing up. That's what I wanted to be.
Right, you did tell me that. You told me
Yeah.
that.
So it was a big thing, and then I left the faith at 16, 15, 16, and kind of just did my own thing in searching. And the one quote I always took from it is my senior year, I had one religion teacher, because I went to Catholic high school, who I still went to confirmation, did all the sacraments and all that. And even though I'm not Catholic now, it's still very much a foundation of how I believe. But
Did you were you like put into like Catholic school when you were a little kid and like it was because of your
Yes,
parents or
yes.
because I was not like religious in the slightest. Like I just kind of lived my life and didn't care about anything else but myself. Like pretty
Well,
much.
as I got older, I found out. So my mom is very, very strict Roman Catholic. Grew up that way.
Mm,
Whereas I always thought my dad was, and it wasn't until I got older that I realized he's pretty atheist. If not atheist, agnostic, but the family definitely is, for the most part, or at least that's the face they put on. So,
right.
kind of got that idea. Left, um, went searching. Miss Saunier, my religion teacher, I remember said, "Be careful, because on the quest for everything, you'll probably find nothing." And that kind of has been my quote ever since, especially
Mm,
coming to Christ, because I came back, I found my way, um, despite me going out all over the place. So mine was more like events, negative events happening, not necessarily to me.
right.
Um,
Right.
I discussed this with, I was kind of talking to my wife this morning in preparation, kind of like, oh, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the big one to think about, right now that's obvious the news is the Texas floods, which happened about a couple hours away from
Great
us.
example. Yeah.
And I mean, you got a Catholic camp, you've got these little girls who are just savagely killed in this horrible flash flood.
This screams a perfect example for what I used to
Yeah, and it's
blame
like, oh
God
my
for.
gosh, it all adds up. And how do you look at somebody, the family, and say, oh, hey, God has a plan. Oh, hey, here's this. And it's trying to wrestle with that idea. And that's what I struggled with. And even then, the point that I came to and how I feel, and then I'll see how you feel, is that a couple of different things. One, that there is a plan. And I know it sounds so cliche, is like God has a plan. And
Right. That's the kind of thing that would piss me off and be like, oh, this is part of your plan, God?
yeah,
Really?
that God's plan involves this horrific act, and to say that does not in any way, shape, or form belittle the horribleness of what happened. Like in no
Right.
way does it.
But as an agnostic or an atheist, like I would hear Christians say things like that, and I would think, oh gosh, they don't know their own book.
Oh, exactly. And I know we're going to talk about like how we see stuff politically in one episode. We'll get there, and there's a whole
Right, right.
dogma I could quote there. A whole lot of stuff. So if you're listening, stay tuned for future episodes. Uh,
Lots of controversy.
right, we're gonna every topic you're not supposed to talk about, we're gonna be talking about.
Pretty much. I kind of like that though.
So the schools of thought that I have, and I haven't wrestled my mind with which one I'm like hooked on, is the generic God has a plan. The next one would be that God set things in motion, because I know as a believer, I'm not one with I call it the Satan cop out,
Hmm.
that anything that's evil is, oh, well, that's just the devil. Oh, that's just Satan. And in some regards, absolutely. But just to be like, that's just the easy answer. Oh, it's just him. Oh, he did it.
Right.
Like,
And I think it could go both ways too,
yeah,
where it's like, oh, all bad things are God's fault, but all good things are because of me or because like I just got lucky too. But it could go in the reverse too. It's like, oh, all bad things are this Satan character, and
exactly. And I mean, people say like, God in the Old Testament does do some very extreme things, and that's an argument in itself. But one of the things I push forward is, did he set things in motion? And is he reactionary, or does he actually step in?
right.
Did
There's
he
so
cause
much
the flood?
context missing in the Old Testament, by the way, that when I was not a believer, I thought you just read this and there's like a saying, and that I learned is the Bible is not always prescriptive, but also it can be descriptive.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a big rule book for like, oh, if it's in this book, you need to follow this. So you need to be
Yeah.
not eating shrimp. You need to not wear multiple types of fabrics.
My interpretation with it too, how I always did, I know we're kind of going off on a tangent. We're both ADHD and this is what we
Oh,
get.
crap.
Yeah, we're both ADHD, so this is gonna be fun.
I'll be
Uh,
on top of that. I need to be better about this.
but that's what's gonna be fun about it, is it's a roller coaster every episode. We'll get to the point eventually. It's a super cool, I like to say. Um,
You like get on a roller coaster only to realize like it's just a tram that goes. It's like a guy driving it to do his grocery shopping, and then he goes back onto the roller coaster. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
you got to realize you hop on the roller coaster, and we actually just realized we're a monorail. We're just going around. Um,
Gosh, that speaks to me.
anyway, with the old with the Old Testament, yeah, I mean that to me that is descriptive in that it's setting up the impossible standard. It's not a rule book. It was in the day, but it's not a rule book because it sets an impossible standard. You can't live up to that. It's impossible to live up to.
Yeah, they were told basically to do certain things that even they knew they couldn't live up to. That's
Exactly. And then that's where Jesus comes in to fulfill that. But so, in regards to bad stuff happening, did God set things in motion? And he's reacting with his people and his believers and those that have put their faith in there with whatever. And the next thing would be that, sometimes people think that part of faith is everything goes great. Everything's
right.
amazing.
Oh, that's so yeah. I
Yeah, it's and that everything just works out the way it was. My wife told me when I got baptized because she's been a lot closer in faith than I have for a long or she's a superhero in of herself for dealing with my atheist agnostic butt for so long. Uh,
seriously.
right? And I think back on it. Anyway, that's a story for another day. But you know, she kind of put forth and was like, imagine you're in that situation and we have our twins, you have one, and it's like how do you deal with that?
Right.
And she says, when you come to faith, the devil comes at you for a while, whatever that may be. And I use devil broadly, not
Right. Right.
necessarily like pitchfork, demon red,
Right. Right.
but things things come at it because trying to knock you off your game almost. Because it's targeted. It's scared to get closer to him. And so you could see as maybe that's a reason why bad stuff happens. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. What do you think, Nick?
No, I don't think you're rambling at all. I think that there's a few things that I wish I knew when I was agnostic. Like, I wish someone would have talked to me because all of the Christians I had met just seemed like these overly nice, like awkward, overly nice people that I don't know. I thought were supposed to be living some perfect life, seemed hypocritical. I wish I had run into a Christian that was as skeptical as I was and would have brought up the certain points, like some points being how God didn't intend for any bad thing ever to happen to a person ever. Like original intention for creation is in Genesis, where he made man, and man was the only thing that he said was very good. Everything he made was good, but that was very good. There was no death, no illness, nothing bad. And we were supposed to just live a good life. But it was met because of our fault, being imperfect and having the free will we have, that human beings can make free will choices to do bad. And I think that that is a big thing to consider. So it's really us. It's kind of humanity's fault. Another thing is now that causes a broken world. And because it's a broken world, well, now there's going to be sickness and illnesses and accidents and bad things that happen. I thought God just like was Poseidon or something, like he controlled the seas and the storms and all, you know?
And that becomes the misconception too. Yeah, that's what people think, both Christian and non-Christian alike.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's almost like everybody. This is a really good example for how when I had social anxiety, massive social anxiety, I would perceive. I think people perceived me in different ways, and I would
Yeah,
perceive other people in different ways based off of my experiences. And I think people do the same with God. Like they think he's one person may think he's a mix of Zeus and like Poseidon and this person they hated in their childhood who had more dominant power. And then another person could say, "Oh, he's like the most perfect thing ever," and like, "I'm great. My life is great because of him." But like overly zealous in a way um, where it's like, "Oh, I did great on my test today because God gave me an A," not taking
right.
responsibility for their own studying or anything. So,
I'm definitely the same way. I'm one of those where it's like, okay, yeah, he's not going to save people in flood, but he's going to give you an A on your, math test. Come
right,
on.
right,
Like, and it's so interesting because this brings up a good point that I was just thinking about is how humanly we define God. It's
right.
always a characteristic. It's always a trait. It's always, or if it's something mythical, let's just say, it becomes something mythical that we can wrap our heads around. Like, and when we try to put it in a box, oh, God,
Mm,
God's a genie in a lamp. God's the genie from Aladdin.
right. Oh
Um,
gosh, I got chills.
right? That he can do all these magical things and he can just boop, snap his fingers and there you go and it's fixed. And it's not realizing that it's part of the plan and living in it.
Right.
And
I do. My stepdad, I asked him, why don't you believe in, he was a hardcore atheist, like lawyer. Um, and he said, well, one day when I was a kid, I looked up at the clouds and I said, God, make that cloud look like a fire truck shape, you know? And he didn't do it. And ever since then, I was an atheist. That's what he said. I think more happened to him than that. But I think that a lot of people have that very same outlook with the genie in the lamp syndrome, you know? Like, God, if you love me, if you really care about me, you're going to do these things I tell you to do. But would you go to like the king of a nation and say, like, hey, if you really exist, you should do what I tell you to do? And like the king of any nation is nothing compared to the God of all creation, you know?
right. And it's not that it's even a create like again, a king, a very noble human concept that you can picture is
Right,
this ultimate glory. And there's a reason we say that when we see the face of God, we would die if we saw it in human form,
right.
as humans, is because it's so incomprehensible. And I hate to say like, oh, his ways are higher, or oh, it's an elaborate way, oh, it's a very big
Yeah.
way. Because again, kind of like the devil thing, it's a cop out. No, I'll just explain everything I can explain by saying it's unexplainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Don't get
it's
under my skin as an agnostic.
right. And it's like, no, it's not necessarily that it's unexplainable. It's that it's not comprehensive enough for even to find the words to put it into pictures. Like it's nothing we can grasp and it's nothing that we can get. And I'm gonna let you marinate on that. And you're gonna edit this real quick. I need to go grab my dog because he's attacking my neighbor right now. And I can hear him in the background. We are back. Definitely
It's like you just come back all like covered in dirt and like your
covered in
clothes all
dirt,
torn
beat
up.
up. I'm not gonna put him on camera, but I definitely have a baby in my arms currently.
Oh my goodness.
He's so this actually is the perfect segue back into it. He has his dad's trickery abilities, and his question of everything because he was screaming for my wife in there. I mean, inconsolable, blue in the face. I grabbed him and held him, immediately smiled, told, stop crying, perfectly fine. So he clearly was using that as an excuse
He
to
just wants your dad as attention. That's how my son is too. He just like we go cry a lot and then like he'll see my face from
it
like,
was like, ah, all right, cool.
yeah, I'm happy, I'm good.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, they were talking about starting with God being like this image of someone or something we are trying to imagine, but I think we should start with what Christians claim to be God, which is something that is holy. And what's holy is separate from what we're used to, and it's basically higher than anything we could possibly imagine. So if we start thinking about God the way he's supposed to be represented, he's supposed to be the most unbelievably good, kind, loving, intelligent being that can possibly exist, the definition of good. So anything that would kind of get me to fall off of that would mean I'm going off my own interpretation instead of what any scripture would say, because
Yeah,
God is supposed to be so good. And if he's the cause of bad things in my mind, well, that's not actually God that's to blame. That's something else. Maybe that's humanity. Maybe that could be Satan. Or maybe it's just because, for example, like a lot of food companies like put cancerous things in their food, bad ingredients, and it causes bad. And it's just like we just have a bad food culture in America, for example, or it could be so
yeah,
many things. Could be that there's natural disasters. Could be because someone did something stupid and now other people have to pay for it. Never know. But I would start with the of the universe being what Christians would define it as instead of what I want to define it as because I'm mad at God, for example.
exactly. And the argument too becomes, why didn't he stop it?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
becomes the next part is why not even so much as why does he allow bad things to happen, which I know is our question, but why don't you stop? But if he is all powerful and all knowing, which we believe, why could he not jump in? And then, I know as an atheist, I'd be like, well, your child murdering deity is not my God because that's not good. That's not all good. And the answer to that is that, like, my thought is, what is good without bad?
Right.
How do you have a concept of good if you don't have a concept of bad? Kind of like when what is truth?
Mm.
And somebody
Who
says,
defines it?
you had mentioned that, and somebody says, like, oh, there is no truth. And it's like, but is that true? Is that a true statement?
Exactly.
So then there
Exactly.
absolutely is a truth. Then there is. And, it's not something I would say you gotta walk up to people at a funeral and be like, hey, it's cool. God's got to figure it out. Don't sweat it. I know your
Hey,
loved one died, but like it's the knowing, and that comes from the person knowing that there is an answer. It may not be readily available. It may not be understood. It may not be understood until years later that we go, because of this thing, this horrible thing happened. It
right.
doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the devil Snidely Whiplash, if you know who that villain is, like twirled his mustache and made it happen. It's
Right.
the bad things can happen not because of the sake of he just wants bad things to happen, or the devil just wants bad stuff to happen. It can be more than that.
Right.
And to a
Yeah,
degree.
I
To a degree.
think
To a degree.
like there's two parts to that question. Like one
Yeah.
is who is defining good and bad, right and wrong, evil and great, like what's truly purely good. And, if it comes down to the individual, then well, what's good to me is bad to you. It's bad to me is good to you. It's like you can go on. It's like a circle. If you say a society, well, what's wrong with what if my society, like my town or my state or my country, believes one thing and another country believes the total opposite? Who's right and who's wrong? So it has to, no matter what's good, has to come from outside of humanity. It
Yep.
has to be discovered, not created. And I think most people know what's good, and bad, but I think that the only way you can know how to tell how it's good, like why is this good or bad, is to seek whatever that higher thing is. And
Yeah.
so that's what I looked for. Like when I started my whole journey, I was just questioning what purpose was, the purpose of life. And I remember interviewing people at a college one time because I was trying to get people's answers. And I said, at that point, I thought everyone had a purpose in life. And this one guy came up to me and said, well, what about Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, was that his purpose? Was he supposed to do all those horrible things to people? And it really stopped me because I was trying to find the answer without God. I thought, oh, the universe just gives us all purpose, or we create our own purpose. But that doesn't sound like a purpose I want to get behind. It doesn't sound like a purpose at all. It sounds like this guy missed his mark. And so, from a Christian perspective, I would think that people like that did not live their purpose because you can't, it's hard to live your purpose if you are living for yourself all the time. Like, what if your purpose is to do something greater than what's just for you, you know?
And we to add, that's actually a really good example. Because to add to that is the individual journey within. So using the Jeffrey Dahmer example, horrific,
Right.
horrific stuff. Absolutely, like
It's like, how can there be a good God if that guy exists, you know?
exactly, like how so? And it's interesting because Dahmer did actually end up converting in jail. He was a very
Right.
massive advocate for
Oh my
faith
gosh.
in jail, which now he had a whole bunch of other things going on. And there was that kind of issue. And so in that regards, he did come to faith late. That's where you insert the free will occasion. What is free will and what is predestination? Does God have the free will to choose, or does God predetermine everything? That's what I wrestled with, like growing up.
Right. Yeah, I remember studying determinism. I was looking into stoicism, and I thought, well, it doesn't matter what we do because everything is just controlled anyways by some random force or something. And but then I
God
thought,
already
well,
knows what I'm going to decide, so what's the point?
right. It's like, but then am I even thinking this then? If it's just determined, then I don't actually have the free will to say I'm thinking this. This is just a script off of some cosmic plan that I'm not even actually part of, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought that just didn't make any sense. I think that it comes down to like the easiest question ever, man. Like, what's the point of life?
Right. Oh yeah, that's like I'm sitting here thinking back, and I was like, let me correct my statement that if God, with God there is no bad thing, because there is bad things. So it's like, okay, hold up. trying to play. All right, let me fix my definition. What am I trying to say? Yeah, I mean, it just kind of becomes with there being evil. I'm trying to put all my thoughts together. With there being bad things that occur, good can come out of it. And is that the example of Christ in things, or Christ, God, whatever you want to call it, and in things? Is that an example of it? Is the perseverance through the evil? Maybe there was the evil action and the horrific floods that killed, I forgot what the number is. Just absolutely
Any
tragic.
one or more, man, it doesn't
A
matter.
hundred, yeah, 100 or so. And on the contrary, a lot of people have come together to help. Not that that is saying that that's the purpose, absolutely not.
Right.
But there has been some good in the midst of that horrific tragedy.
Yeah, you're not
And
justifying that it happened. You're just saying that is there
yeah,
even a percent chance that any good could happen after something so bad? And there are good things that come out of it. Not that it's something you want to happen or stand for. It's just that it's like, you know what? That's just an interesting thought is, because I've gone through a lot of bad things in my life that have happened to me, but there have been some good things that have come out of it as well.
well, the contrary to that too is if so, if you go to the atheistic point of view and you say that's not God because that's not good,
Right, right,
anything bad is not God, and if God allowed anything bad to happen, then there is no God. That kind of lie. With that becomes the idea that if there is no good, then nothing good could come from it, period. End of
right.
story. The kids a lot of the time tragically lost their lives and nothing else can happen. Where, they don't need help. They don't need any of this stuff would be the reaction for it. Okay, they
Yeah,
just figure it out. That sucks. All right, moving on. And that's kind of the reaction it becomes. And there's still the faith that even though these bad things happen, knowing that God's grace can shine some way, in some capacity.
right.
Not as the answer, not as the cure-all, not as the fix, but it can shine through. Is kind of my where I'm thinking with it.
Right. And God isn't causing these things to happen, but he can't allow these things to happen. I think that's the thing too, is like a lot of times as a very skeptical agnostic, I was very just heartbroken with the world and with myself, with everything. I didn't want to see a God exist because I didn't understand. I would just put all my blame on him and
Yep.
say, why me? Why are you allowing this stuff to happen? And I just didn't get it. And
I
I
mean, even
didn't.
in the church itself, not to, sorry to cut you off, but even in the church itself, the evil that is within there, my gosh, that can
Right, right. Yeah, I know
big.
people who've gone through a lot of things because of the church, and it's just crazy. Like so many atheists I talk to that I'm friends with are previously like from a Catholic church or something or Mormon church or and it's just hard. But I think that what's really important is to look at who is the God of the Bible claiming to be. Because if I mean, I can make up who he is all day long, and that's cool, but is it the truth? Is it what is really being claimed here? Or am I just holding a grudge against something I think is him? And when I look at the God of the Bible, I'm not looking at some perfect looking, like handsome, strong, guy who's super liked by everybody. I'm looking at a guy who is a suffering servant, a God who came to earth as knowing this would happen to himself, as a poor carpenter who came to wash the feet of the very person that would betray him and he would pray for and sacrifice his life for those who hated him and would murder him and accuse him of horrible things. And he did nothing but love them. He told people to love their enemies, to sit with people that disagree with you. He was the perfect example of literally if anything bad ever happened to anyone, he's the only person to actually never have done anything truly bad whatsoever. But
The
he
that
took
lit
on.
the code that's in Leviticus and the Old Testament, he's the only one to live by it.
Right. Exactly. He is someone who's never lied, cheated, stolen, talked ill of anyone, like things like that, unless they were being hypocrites, but
Well,
it
yeah, and he didn't talk. I mean, the only thing you could really say, only argument I think, and trust me, I've heard it before from the atheist agnostic background, is that, prone to anger, but righteous anger would
right.
be in the temple,
Like
which
is there such a thing as good or bad anger? I think that anger is not just like, oh, if you're angry, you're bad, you're not perfect. I mean, if I were in a relationship and someone cheated, well, I can be angry righteously.
Yeah.
But if I were the one cheating and I was angry at them for finding me out, that's a totally different kind of anger. That's like, oh, I'm the one who's in the wrong. That is a wrong kind of anger.
And there's levels. Then and that's what's, obvious. The answer is obvious, but it's something that when you come from the atheist agnostic background, it really stands out. I'm sure you'll know this as well, is just how perfect every answer is. That's one of the things that first stood out to me
Mm,
when I kind of came to Christ. Because I started in the Old Testament, or sorry, the New Testament. I started reading the Gospels first. I'd already read the Bible before years ago, but I was like, I'm gonna pick it back up. So I started in the Old Testament, or New. I keep messing that up. Just how perfect every answer he gives is. It's the when you're driving home after an argument and you drive and you go, dang it, I should have said this. Or you're in the shower
right.
and you're like, I should have mentioned this. There was none of that. Every answer was perfect in every way and led exactly to what was needed. And that to me is what stood out. Is wait a second,
Mm,
this isn't just a sinless man. This is perfection in every way. Because every answer he gives is the exact right thing that needed to be said.
exactly. You know what? That brings up something for me too, is I've heard this saying, if someone plays Beethoven badly, poorly, don't blame Beethoven.
Yeah,
So when I look, I think also when people blame Christians, like I would do that. Christians are not supposed to be perfect, even though a lot of us think so.
right.
And even there, even if you became a Christian, you would still feel that way. You'd still feel like there's a bunch of hypocrites in the church.
I mean, that's a massive thing for me still, currently. I'm in the church, been saved for almost a year now, and that's still a massive problem for me. One of my biggest things are Christians. My biggest complaint. And I agree that they're not supposed to be perfect. I agree completely. We're not supposed to be perfect. And at the same time, I have a problem because I see a lot of, especially in society today, a lot of thinking that you're perfect or
Right.
think
Holier than thou was the
go go
saying.
with go with me on this little train real quick. Knowing you're not perfect, but thinking you're perfect because of the fact that you know you're not perfect. So you can just justify whatever you do.
Right.
Oh, I can call this person names. I can, ridicule these people. I can, demonize these people and all stuff. And yeah, I'm not perfect, so it's all good. But I am saved through Christ, so cool.
Right. Right.
I did it. It's like I'm fixed, you guys. And it's like, no, you have to live it at the same time. It's not a get out of jail free card. And I always say I'm Christian, not Christian with the trademark symbol on it.
Right. I'd say
Whereas
follower of Christ because it just to me sounds different.
yeah,
You
because
know,
of the historical background and evidence and willful word of the Lord, as well as seeing his creation and seeing his work constantly in everything. That's why I'm Christian, not
right.
okay, cool, I get to go to heaven.
Right.
Because Lord knows I may not. Like
The the
that's
the the difference between being a non-believer and a believer for me, a lot of it came down to personal experiences, but also reading a Bible versus a study Bible. Because when I learned the context to the things that were in the Bible, it was no longer like I could take cherry pick and take like some verse out of context and say, "Oh, your God says this, so you're a hypocrite and like Christianity is fake and it's just dumb." Or now I can say, oh, well, if I read the next verse, it explains it. Or maybe this is not prescription but description of what happened back then that they were even struggling with. Or maybe it's has to do with some other historical context. So
I mean, Bible written for you, not to you.
right, like a lot of it is just letters or like poems. There's a lot of things in there that we're supposed to learn from in different kinds of ways. There's different types of learning.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to talk about too was that the meaning of life is not something like I can say I know, but my best guess, based off of having questioned a ton of religions and beliefs, and I was that positive affirmation guy. I was that guy looking and questioning everything, even myself, and that's what helped me find Christ, was questioning myself harder than I questioned everyone else. My take, my guess is I would think the meaning of life is to get to know the God who created me, because the God of the universe is supposed to be perfect. So why would he make me? He wouldn't need me. I have nothing to offer him. The only thing that a perfect God can feel that would lead to me existing is not out of necessity, but out of love. Because I know back in like high school, I wanted love so bad. I was like this hopeless romantic, and I just wanted to give it to someone. I wanted to give it so badly. I just wanted to give that. And that's the only thing. Like I wanted it too, but I can see like if love really is that powerful, it goes beyond human understanding, that a God of the universe could say, I love so hard that I want to share it so badly, but also you cannot share love if it is with autonomous things, autonomous beings. If you're like designed to only love me, if you're designed only to do the things I tell you to do that are good, that's not love. Love is saying, you have a choice to do good or bad, to love me or not to love me. And, if you don't, I'm not going to force you to spend all of eternity with me. So
And 1,000%. I agree completely. And it's,
I don't know. I disagree. I'm just kidding.
you said it. You're like, actually, this is a ruse. Uh, but but it becomes the ultimate sign of love as well, is the actions and the covenants that are made. And I mean, a covenant is a promise, and there's all sorts of details I can go into because I mean, I know we've talked briefly, and I'm like super breakdown historical context
Oh,
and oh
yeah.
gosh, knowing the context, not just taking the verse and being like, it drives me up a tree when somebody just grabs a verse and is
Oh, I
like,
know.
and then they spin it. It's like,
It goes for Christians too. Like, we need to look at the context.
I mean, context gets so wiped out because it'll be like Martha, Jesus met Martha at the well, and it'll take like that verse, and then it'll be like, yep, therefore everybody needs to drink water. And it's like, wait, what? No, that's not what the story is what's important. Tell the rest of it. Or
Right.
I would make the argument that the only thing you could pluck out and it work without the context in some instances would be Psalms and Proverbs. That's the only thing I could really think that okay, you could probably pluck that out and show maybe Song of Songs with it, where maybe you could do a verse because the context isn't. It adds in a lot of some ways, in some ways it doesn't. But again, you have to read to know the context to know if there is no context or not. To know if okay, this
Right.
this can stand out.
Right.
Because people take Psalms and then like, oh, this is what this means because here's this one sentence. And it's like, yeah, no, read the rest of it. There's a whole meaning behind it.
Right. And like one thing that I used to think too is like, oh, God is bad and he likes to make people suffer because look at the Old Testament where he literally is saying, I'm going to do these
Oh,
bad things to you. But
good
what I
point.
didn't know, I didn't look into was to even question myself and say, hey, can I just give this guy the benefit of the doubt like they do in legal cases, and just look at the
Right.
evidence? I found every single time he did that, it was literally for hundreds of years of after a warning saying, hey, you guys are doing horrible things to each other and it's only getting worse. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So if you don't stop doing this, I'm in a few hundred years, I'm going to step in. And some people have done that. Like that's the whole point of the story of Jonah was he
Yep.
came to tell people like, hey, you got to stop doing this or God's going to come and it's not going to be a pretty sight. And they turned around, but a lot of other societies didn't. So God would have to punish them. And that like I like to look at it in terms of like being a parent, like, hey, if you don't stop doing this, I'm gonna have to punish you. I'm gonna have to, take this away or something. It's just different on a godly scale than a parent
Right.
scale with a little kid, but like God is supposed to be a father, like see him as a father, but for the entire creation. So it's got to be bigger scale.
Not to mention he selected the Israelites and absolutely anytime something bad happens like that, it is usually indicative of the Israelites do something wrong. And there's a whole bunch of memes, and I love them. Is all the
We
ones
should
where
just go over some memes for the
we
other
should be like, oh
episodes.
my gosh, one day we'll just go over our favorite. We'll just find reels and stuff and just go over our favorite.
Let's do it.
But any of the ones that are like, where it's like God's like, don't screw this up. Okay, I fixed it. Like, here, all right, don't screw it
Right.
up. The Israelites immediately screw it up, and it's like, come on. I just fixed it. Like, you wanted to be out of Egypt. You're out of Egypt. Stop complaining.
You darn kids.
Right? It's not going to be easy. I mean, even Moses gets punished because he doesn't get to go to the promised land because he did a miracle and said, "Yeah, this is the power I have." And God was like, "Oh, okay. I'm a part of that too, you know.
Right.
That's a big part."
And I
And
think
so he got punished.
another big thing to do as well is to look at the entire purpose of the Bible, and it'll change the way you read the Old Testament and the New Testament. The whole purpose, like ancient Israel had an enormous pressure because they knew they were told of this Messiah that was supposed to come. So they had to act a certain way. They had to separate themselves with certain laws from other pagan religions around them that were doing really horribly obscene things. If, like, for example, if I told you, like, your great grandkid is gonna be like this incredible king of this nation that's gonna like help all of like end world hunger, and it has to be very specific through a very specific lineage because he needs to have exactly these genes. He needs to be at this exact same born at this exact time at this exact location. All these things. If you mess up even one little thing that has to do with that lineage, like that's a lot of pressure. So God was always trying to be on top of Israel. And that's why they had so many laws at that time that Jesus ended up fulfilling and saying, hey, because I'm born now, I've fulfilled these laws. We don't need to do these things like, care about not eating certain things or not wearing certain things or whatever.
Oh, and that's the story I tell. Oh my gosh, love to tell it. Love to tell it. Is a lot of people misinterpret the story of the Good Samaritan. Here's my interpretation. People listening, don't come at me in the comments. This is my interpretation. The story is misrepresented. The story becomes Samaritans. You think Samaritan bad, Samaritan actually good. That
Hmm.
becomes the meaning of it because it always starts every lesson. The Samaritans and the Jews hated each other. And this was a big this. And it's the Samaritans and the Jews, if you look it up historically, they hate is a strong word.
Yeah.
Like people think it's the Palestinians and the Israelis. And it really wasn't. It was more like two groups in high school. They're kind of catty, they don't really like each other.
Right,
Because the
right.
Samaritans were kind of wishy-washy. Because he started to have this idea. Because if you read, when you read the Bible and the Old Testament ends, there is no Jewish synagogues. There is no sects of religion. There is no Pharisees. There is none of that. That all becomes later post Babylon, post the exile to Babylon. And it became this thing where the Samaritans were a certain sect that kind of had their cake and ate it too. They created a term that was kind of God-fearers. They were God-fearers.
Hmm.
They weren't Jewish, but they were God. They believed in God, but they didn't really do it. And we're like, we're not Israelites, so we're not part of the God of Moses or anything like that. But, we believe in God. We know God. We believe and trust in him and he can lead good things. But, all
Right,
the
right.
rules and stuff, because the rules were so strict. And people, especially when they got back to Jerusalem and kind of the Jewish religion started kind of spreading a little bit more post-Babylon, it became we got to get back to the laws of Moses. We got to get back to your Leviticuses and your Exoduses and Deuteronomies and Numbers and all that.
Right.
To the point that it was debilitating, which is what Jesus was doing. That's why Jesus healed people on Sunday. And so that was a big deal. Because they even say, who are you to do this?
Right.
So the good story with the Good Samaritan is the first two people that walk by are Jewish heritage. So if they were to help the man injured and he dies, you are considered unclean. You have to leave town for the time period. It's either a week or 30 days.
Yeah, yeah. Bunch
You
of
got to
rules
leave
like
the
that.
town for the time period and you're unclean and it's going to upset everything. So rather than help, you just say, I don't want to risk the chance that I'll be unclean.
Yeah, too bad.
It'll shake me up, so I'm not gonna, it'll mess up my life, so I'm not gonna do it. So
Right.
he chose the Samaritan because he's kind of saying, in a sort of way, that this is the concept, because the Samaritan doesn't care that he'll be unclean. He doesn't care that he's going to have to leave. There's a
Hmm.
person in need, and he needs to step in. And that's what Jesus is saying. And everybody's like, oh, it's because he taught him to love the Samaritans. And it's like, no, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, don't adhere to the code and be so strict in the rules that you forget to help the man that's in front of you, man, woman, whatever it may
Right.
be. If somebody you see somebody sick and dying, the rules mean nothing. It's about God's love is the greatest commandment.
Right.
Hoping is the greatest commandment.
So
That's where you need to go in.
So, like a lot of times, as an agnostic or a bunch of atheists will say, well, compare Christians to Pharisees and not even know what Pharisees are, or that not even
Right.
realize that Jesus also fought against Pharisees and he also didn't want people to be adhering to this law, at the expense of people. He said basically that you lost the point. The whole point of the law was to bring you closer to God, to do godly things, to do things that are good. But instead, it's making you prideful and bad and ignore people who need your help. And
Yep.
so I feel like a lot of agnostics and atheists can also, if they really knew who the God of the Bible was and they read the context, they would find a lot of relatability with him and say, oh man, he actually thinks the same exact thing I do about a lot of people that claim to be holy, holier than thou. He doesn't want people to be that way. That's not
Yeah.
a good representation. Back to the whoever plays Beethoven poorly, don't blame Beethoven.
Yeah.
Beethoven. Um, Christians are going to be imperfect. Do not judge Christianity like Christ by a Christian because we are all imperfect. And there's that
Judge,
saying, I'm going to butcher this.
Judge Christ by the book.
Right.
Don't judge, but read the book. Don't look at like if a Christian is bad, it doesn't mean all Christianity is bad. I love the Beethoven example.
Right, right,
It's
exactly. Wish I made that up, but I didn't. Christians are not this club of perfect people, but we are a club of people who know we are imperfect and we need a savior. We need someone to help us. And and I think that the people that act holier than thou kind of ruin that depiction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be a good spot to end it on.
Yeah. Do you
You
mind if
can
I just
see
say
the sun
two?
is slowly descending upon me.
Yeah, in the darkness.
I started in in the light, and it's slowly becoming me hiding in a cave.
I'm just going to end with two verses that I
Okay.
think be good for people to look into. So if you really want to know what the whole point of Christianity is, there's John 3:16,
Uh-huh.
which is for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Like what does that really actually mean? And the second one is Matthew 20:28, where it says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. I think if you really can try to aim to understand what those are even about, it'll change a lot. And you'll find that the God that Christians are looking to is a God who is selfless, all loving, will never abandon you, will never forsake you, does not judge you the way you think. And he genuinely is there. And all he wants is for you to seek him with all your heart. That's it. Come as you are.
Exactly. Oh, come as you are. That's our church's slogan. We have it everywhere. Come as you are.
Perfect.
That's how it
Awesome.
should be.
Thanks for
Awesome.
listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And we will
Subscribe.
tune in next week in case we're canceled immediately. If we're not, tune in next week to listen to us rant a little bit more and say stuff that'll probably get us in trouble.
Bye.
Right? Bye.